Hello and welcome all to the beginning of our late morning sessions. We are here for two presentations. So we'll do the first from 10:45-ish to 11:10-ish, 5 minutes of questions and move right into the other one. Silence your phones, all that stuff. Try not to shout out and yell. We're in a little compressed period of time here, so we will leave questions. I'm sure you could track these guys down as they exit the door and ask a couple more if you need to. First up, we have Bill and Patrick. Bill is the executive director and founder of All Hands Boatworks, Inc. And Patrick is in charge of special projects. I will skip the long introductions, let them talk more about themselves and their wonderful program here. So jump right in.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you, for being here, and thanks to the people who are streaming in as well. It's an interesting pairing when I saw the agenda, putting up against the Madison Sewerage District, but so it is, So I think your theme of the conference is a very fitting one, with that leading question: how do we build trust around our waters? And over the next few minutes or 20 minutes, Patrick and I are going to tell you a little bit about the work we're doing in Milwaukee, which in many ways does exactly that. We're working in a very unique way to develop, build trust, awareness, knowledge, enjoyment about our waterways. So my thanks to Caroline Joyce, who I know is involved in helping to plan the convention, and was thrilled when she reached out to me and invited us to come and be here this morning. So without further ado, let's just begin to work through this. So All Hands Boatworks, is a nonprofit youth development organization based in Milwaukee. We've been at this for 10 years. So they said I could just point there we go. And again, just historically, a little acknowledgement, and that we're all aware of, that Wisconsin, with its 15,000 plus lakes and numerous streams, we have a long history of boating on our waters, going back to the First Nations peoples who use these for their livelihood and for their enjoyment. So, and of course, right up through history and into recent times, our waterways and boats have a special kinship. These few archival photos taken from the Milwaukee Public Library just show a quick example of some of the boating activity, on our local rivers in the Milwaukee area. There's a photo here of a Milwaukee River from Clinton Streets showing some of the large bulk carrying schooners that were the tractor trailer trucks of the 19th century. Photo at the middle top on Kletch Park. That's a canoe boating class. People using it to recreate. Love of the boat. Two boats down below. We build boats similar to that, but a little lighter, not quite as heavy.
Thankfully lighter, yes.
Yeah. And of course, tugs and fishing boats on the Milwaukee River. So the work we're doing, in some respects, falls right in line with this long heritage of our maritime industry, maritime work. So a little bit of quick background about All Hands Boatworks. It happens that this year marks our 10th anniversary. Holy cow, we've made it this far. Hard to believe.
Yes, and in May that is the actual anniversary, and then June 4th we're going to have a celebration at the Milwaukee Community Sailing Center, where that Sunday from 3 to 7 we'll have some cake and some boats on the water, and we haven't figured out all else that's going to happen, but that's open to the public.
So more than 10 years ago, All Hands Boatworks literally started in the trunk of my car, where I loaded tools, put plywood sheets on top, and would haul them from school to school, where we'd be invited to come and set up and lead a fairly simple boat building project with students. The projects were about 30 hours in length, but it was we had no shop space at that time. It was literally just worked out of the back of my car. There was a young man that I was introduced to who had graduated high school, but in all honesty, he was foundering. He didn't have much direction. I asked him if he'd like to just be my sidekick, maybe come along with me and be my assistant. And I needed him because, in all transparency, he had more woodworking knowledge than I did. My background is in education, not as a carpenter or a builder. So when we first started to build these boats with kids in the schools, I was learning right alongside, the 7th and 8th graders that we're working with. But from that time, we've certainly come a long way. And it's important to point out that for a lot of the young people whom we work with, their projects and their activities connect them with our waterways, perhaps for the very first time. So they may have been aware of our river system in Milwaukee, of our 3 rivers, but for them, it's just that river that's a few blocks from the house. They may have gone down to the riverside and thrown rocks in it, but that's the extent of their relationship with it. That's it. So imagine the change that takes place after they build a boat with their own hands, and we have a day to launch the boats into the water. We encourage them, they get into that boat, they see that it's not going to sink on them. It's very stable. And it begins to awaken them in a whole new way to this natural resource, this very important resource all around them. And we can talk a little bit more about that as well. So just very quickly, over the past 10 years, we've developed a laddered program design. We work with kids from middle school level, 5th, 6th grade, in-school projects, as well as we have an after-school teen mentoring and leadership program at our boat shop called Raft. That's connected with summer intern work for them, as well as summer camps that we operate right on the river, right on the Menominee River, and as well as a pre-apprenticeship job skills program. So,
and we're actually employing a few kids right now that are coming in after high school, after school, and doing some.
So from that very humble beginning in the trunk of my car, starting back around 2012, 2013, that first year we led 3 boat building projects, engaged about 51 kids. All of the kids, the majority of the kids we work with are, they're urban, tend to be lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And as of this April, we've completed, I know, I get tired thinking about it, over 135 boat building projects, working with upwards of about 5,000 youth, do a lot of collaborative work with schools and youth organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs. And, it's great to lead those collaborations. So boats we're building are anywhere from, as you'll see some pictures here, 8-9 feet in length, all the way up to our largest boat as a 24-foot, 4-person rowing skiff.
And I should mention this Bevan skiff is kind of our standard build, usually in the middle schools. This has a lot of support behind it. It's been used all over the country in other programs like this. So if somebody's interested in doing something like this, there's a lot of resources there to say, oh, I want to go and build boats with kids on the lakes, and here's a good boat that you can do in like 36 to 40 hours and have it all painted, ready to go.
As you can imagine, there's a lot of STEM-based concepts that we're introducing along the way. But importantly, when I think about the connection with our waters, just it naturally will happen in the course of building the boat. Young people begin to ask questions about where are we going to launch this thing? Let me think about, is there a pond or a lagoon near our school? How about the river? Could we do it on the lakefront, which some of them have not even ever been to see? But, it just begins to stimulate questions about the waters. And that's a good time to introduce and talk about our Milwaukee River watershed. And you can see where it goes from there. That's one thing I love about, as an educator, the experiential side of this and the kind of inquiry-based side to what we're doing. So blend youth programs as well as community work. We work with a number of adult organizations as well, including our local VA veterans who have built a very nice 14-foot sailboat with us, named it the Patriot. And that was on launch day. There's one of the many, many launches. And I pointed out this particular, chose this photo. We worked with a teen crew in the summertime. They built 2 boats, and they came to me near the end of the construction project, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Bill, we have an idea for the design of the boat. We want to make it a superheroes boat." I said, "What?" And they said, no, we can do it. Trust us, trust us. So I said, they showed me some drawings, and they ended up, they did Superman on one side, Wonder Woman on the other side. You can see the kind of colors, very fitting, kind of comic book style. But the best part was they all have to reach consensus on what the name of the boat's going to be. And
Besides Titanic, we always kind of knock that one down.
right. And they finally came up with, very clever, they said, we're going to call it the Heroes and Sheroes, just as it's spelled. I just thought that's an A+. I mean, they came up with that totally on their own. Yeah, so I mentioned, we have a laddered plan, kind of structure to our different programs. So in the summer, which is the time, obviously, we spend the most amount of time on the water, we offer several week-long free day camps. There's no cost to participation for the kids. A lot of this takes place at we have a small boatyard site. Is that here? I guess that's a couple sides down. On the Menominee River, right downtown, next to the recycling facility, which maybe if you're familiar with the Milwaukee area, you know where that is. There's a public canoe and kayak launch right there by the bridge, the Ember Lane Bridge. And that's one of the locations we use, for our on-water programs.
And this starts to answer kind of the question we often get is, what do we do with the boats? And so we have the summer camps that use the fleet to a great degree. Last July, Bill picked off a few boats that then we were able to donate to a couple overnight camps here in Wisconsin. And so we got 9 boats out to some camps that then they'll have campers this year rowing in boats that were built by kids about the same age. And so that's kind of try to keep that fresh and not just have these boats built. Some of them then end up being an auction item or a fundraiser for the schools to help support the program too, because we try to get the schools to help participate in the cost as well.
So again, for a number of kids, they may have never been out in any kind of small craft before. And part of building the trust for us is starting very fundamentally, just working through maybe apprehensions, fears they have about getting into a boat, being on the water. We don't minimize that, and we work through that, with them. And from there, when they can get past that, feel more comfortable, our skiffs are flat bottom. They're much more stable than a canoe, which can be very tippy. Yeah. But that's when they then begin to think about this water that's underneath them. Is there anything swimming in here? Can I drink this water? Could I swim in it? I mean, it's a great prompt.
And that's kind of where even before they get on the water, is not a swimming class. So we aren't getting kids in the water. And oftentimes we'll practice with the kids getting in and out of the boat just to get them a feel, because they've never been on a boat before, and a small boat can heal one way or the other, depending on how you use your weight and how to do that carefully and easily. And then, there's always 1 or 2 girls every once in a while on the payoff of, launching the boat, where they get out on the water and the screams just come out, but it's half joy and half fear. And by the time they get back safely to the dock, which we've not lost any kids yet, they all have already had life jackets on and how to fit those. It tends to be the big payoff for any of the programs or the summer camps. Then when the kids, if they have a choice between doing something on land or going on water, they're going to choose the water.
The Maritime Skills Day Camp introduces them to a variety of boating experiences. Here in this picture on the left, they're getting a chance to row in Irish currachs. And we work together with our Milwaukee Irish Currach Club with that. And on the right, some of the boys there standing inside our 24-foot St. Iles skiff. That was built in the after-school teen program over a period of years. That particular boat, there's about over 500 hours of work that went into that.
And for the first time this year, we'll have that permanently on, or at least for the summer, at the Milwaukee Community Sailing Center. We've just started a partnership with them. We'll have 3 rowing gigs like that on the lakefront that we can use for team building and group rowing.
So we have this theme for this year, boats for all folks. And just like I'm sure a lot of you would agree, we feel the first step towards moving towards stewardship of our waterways is you've got to connect with them. You've got to be engaged with them. It's not going to happen, we feel, as well, standing at the shoreline, looking at it, or even reading about the quality, water quality out of a book. You've got to engage with it. And for us, it's making our boats and boating experiences as accessible as possible to as many people, and not letting cost be a barrier to their enjoyment. So that's a specific goal we have this year. Whoop. We did a little bit of research. I'm not going to take the time to, we don't have to go through this whole thing, but just quickly kind of scanned some of the research done. This was one research article, Outdoor Journeys as a Catalyst for Enhanced Place Connectedness and Environmental Stewardship.
Well, when Bill said he was going to do this talk, I said, well, it'd be nice if there was a research paper that connected directly to that getting on the water and how that recreation connects into then having a relationship with water and the environment. And so there wasn't anything that was like a silver bullet, but there's a couple things here that Bill pulled some abstracts. And so there is some, and it's an intrinsic feeling that we all know. And especially, Bill and I, who've spent a lot of time around the water and on boats. I've been sailing for 30 years and done 5 Chicago to Mac races and sailed down in the Caribbean and other places. And that's changed my life. I didn't get into sailing until my 20s. And so the idea of playing around with boats and doing this is super attractive. And then to be able to share the things that I know with some of the kids and give them similar experiences is amazing. Because in my 20s, I remember my wife's family having me take the sailboat, sail it out of the harbor, and then sail it back in. And I'm thinking, I can't cash the check if I bang this boat up. But that with a little bit of help, I was able to do that. And it really expanded my own confidence at that age. So, coming down here at 10, 12, 15 years old and getting a rowboat out, taking it away and bringing it back to the dock safely and figuring out how to maneuver it is super valuable. It's a big payoff.
Here in this slide, on the left, another picture of the caravel that the veterans built, but on the right, I'm going to quickly just tell you about Betty. And it's a good example of what we mean by boats for all folks. One day in the boatyard, this woman wanders in. She introduced herself as Betty. She was intrigued with what we were doing with kids. And she says, I would love it if I could have a small boat that I could put on top of my car, but then put into the water and get some exercise, rowing it. And she didn't have a boat. And she says, could you help me build a small boat? I have a hard time saying no to people. I said, sure, Betty. Talked with some of the others, and she built with a couple of the others. It's very simple. It's called a Portuguese dinghy. Very simple, built out of 2 sheets of plywood, but it was perfect for her. It was lightweight, car toppable, and she was so proud of it, rightly so. And she has used it, rowing, on the Menominee, that we know of. So, well, again, from that research article, and again, one of our concerns, and I think it's shared by many people, and it's pointed out here too, just this disconnect, this disassociation that continues even today, the kids between the natural world and having firsthand experiences in a natural setting due to, quite frankly, the amount of, the technology in our lives and the amount of screen time, that they do. So our programs can provide kind of an antidote to that.
And teaching the boat building, I have often commented to the parents because they're amazed at what the kids have learned just with the tool skills and working with the boats. And I'll also often add, well, and it's been 2 hours since they've looked at a screen, and they're always appreciated that as well.
Yeah. So we have basically 3 locations. Our shop is located, if you're familiar again with the Milwaukee area, On the near south side, just off of National and 12th, across from the Burnham Canal. And in the summer, again, we have a small boat yard located on the Menominee River at 13th and Mount Vernon, next to the recycling facility. And then we're excited about a partnership that's emerging with the Milwaukee Community Sailing Center.
So again, those three larger rowing gigs that we had that were a little more time consuming and difficult to load in and out on a trailer are now going to be we'll be able to crane them in and out. So it should be a lot easier, and we should hope to get a lot more use. And again, fits with this Boats for All folks, where those are going to be available this summer for people to reserve or come in and do a program, whether it's a corporate team building event or a community group that wants to come down and do some rowing of a group of maybe 6 to maybe 10 or 11 people. And then we'll also have the community rowing days, which Bill's about to get into, which is going to be at their Eber Lane, on where we have more boats. We can get as many as say 20 people out on the water.
Yeah, I think we only have a couple minutes left, but we'll continue to offer, which we have done in the past, and we offered it during the pandemic, just community rowing, free to the public. Call us, check out a boat. We'll show you how to row them, equip you with PFDs, get you out, and it's been successful, and we want to do more of that. So there's some happy faces. And again, those 12-foot rowing boats, they're skiffs. That's an example, just to go back to the youth boat building. That's our textbook. When we were working with a school group or a youth group, I mean, that's our curriculum. It's the construction of the boat and then the use of it. This particular boat lends itself very well as a teaching tool. And I mean, I could go on and on about that. We are going to do more this summer, promoting and offering, again, for corporate groups or company groups, as well as community groups, team building in some of our larger craft. So our tagline is, building more than a boat. It's really about building young people and their confidence and responsibility and go on, for success. So get out on the water, ways to get involved with us. Visit our shop. If you're ever in the Milwaukee area, drop in. We're at the last. There's our address, email, phone number. So any concluding remarks?
No, I think just any questions anybody has, we're happy to
Yeah.
answer those.
Yeah, I don't.
Awesome program. Do you do this as a nonprofit? Or are you?
We're
We've got a side business where we take the boats as a Viking come down to, no, I'm kidding. It's
he's kidding.
We're totally nonprofit.
Yeah,
Bill's
yeah.
done a great job of doing a lot of grant writing. We get corporate donations. We also have we did a fundraiser last year. We're going to do that again this year. So and then there's some program funds that we get from the schools and participants, depending on how that goes. But most of the time, for anybody that wants to come and do a program, they're welcome into our shop. So
Thank you.
you kind of
Thoroughly
cobble it together.
Bootstrap program. I mean, we started, as I said, literally with tools and a young man that was helping me out, and word of mouth began to spread, and it's just slowly, steadily grown. Couldn't do what we do, or we couldn't have accomplished what we've accomplished without, we have a staff of 6 now, but we have some amazing volunteers, and we couldn't get it done without them.
Hi, question from online. How many hours does it take you to build your smallest skiff?
Yeah, so that 12-foot skiff, there were a number of pictures of that. It's about 30, when we do it with a youth group, about 30 to 35 hours. 2 adults could knock it out, so to speak, in about 20 hours, I suppose, but no. So that's.
And they've done weekend boat builds for where you have a couple long days. That does happen too, in some other programs. And we should also mention too that there's a TWSBA organization, which is an overarching alliance among addition, Teaching with Small Boat Alliance, which some people are like, you got to get a better acronym, but in any event, it's a movement that's been going on for about 30 some years. And we don't have enough exposure and people that know what we're doing, because it is a great way to get people to connect with the water and then to learn about the environment and pay more attention to the planet.
I'm glad you brought that up because similar to the Wisconsin Lakes and Rivers Partnership, we're part of this large alliance, this network of organizations, museums, individuals. Nobody's doing exactly the very same thing, but it's great to be affiliated with that, right? Be part of that network. Any other questions?
I have a question. We kind of heard about your background and your kind of jumping into sailing story, but we didn't hear yours. What really first inspired you to, again, pack up your car and start doing this work?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't want to cut into our friends from Madison on theirs. Boy, what? The Cliff Notes. You know, again, I mentioned the common thread is worked in education. So I started out as a classroom English teacher decades ago, but then gravitated over. I did some development fundraising work with a private school, but then became involved with outdoor education, environmental education, and specifically working with Caroline, who's in the room here today. We were both heavily involved with the building of the schooner, the Dennis Sullivan in Milwaukee, that took place was built up from 1995 to 2000. And so both Caroline and I worked on the development of all the education programs. I was the education director there for a number of years, but working experientially with young people, that just so rewarding and so needed, I feel, is a great approach. I founded and ran a charter high school for 5 years, but that's a whole other story. But then after that, I began to learn through this Teaching with Small Boats network, several other organizations on the East Coast and West Coast that were working with kids from all different types of backgrounds, building these small boats and utilizing them. And I just began to wonder, could we do something like that here in Milwaukee? So thanks for asking. You know,
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. This is fantastic. Thank you, Carolyn, who I know brought this presentation to us and this conference today. So again, I think we're recording here. Your presentation will be PDF'd and uploaded and available online for if anybody wants to watch it again, or if you didn't get a picture of their contact information, which I know I didn't, but certainly want to, then we'll have all that available for you. So thank you so much again. Big round of applause.
Should just mention there's another program like this in Green Bay, Wisconsin as well. So, and there's probably about, I don't know, 20 or so programs around the Great Lakes. So it is happening. It's going on. And there's places out there that we just need to get the word out better.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. All right, we will transition now to our second speaker.